In 2025, after a bitter 12-year wait, the epic war saga Spartacus finally welcomes a sequel. As always, it is flying high with hot blood and raging hormones. However, since Spartacus was ultimately crucified for resisting the slave owners, the protagonist of this season is not Spartacus, but the great villain, Ashur. In the previous storyline, Spartacus was betrayed by Ashur during the uprising, which led to his capture and death. Although Ashur's head was severed, his soul was favored by the gods, allowing him to return to the mortal world. When Ashur wakes from his slumber, he finds several beauties accompanying him in bed. Upon returning to the world of the living, Ashur, having helped the Crixus family in past battles, receives their favor. Consequently, Crixus gifts him the Gladiator school, Ludus, that once belonged to Gladiator, making him the new Dominus, master of the school. Transforming from a slave into a slave owner, Ashur appoints the experienced Crixus, chief doctore, responsible for training the slaves, in hopes of molding them into gladiators who fight to the death in the arena. Crixus was once a slave himself, having won his freedom through slaughter in the arena. In this gladiator school, he is not just an instructor, but an idol worshipped by all the trainees. Every student hopes to strive hard and shed their slave status to become a true free man, just like Crixus. As the head of the school, Ashur frequently inspects the grounds, hoping to send trained slaves into the arena to earn rich returns with their lives. But to Ashur's surprise, although he is now a noble slave owner, he does not command the respect of his slaves. When he brags to the slaves about how he personally killed Spartacus, a large slave smiles with disdain. The big man points out that Ashur only attacked Spartacus from behind when he wasn't looking, an act considered a dishonorable disgrace in the eyes of a gladiator. Ashur realizes that if he wants to gain the slaves' respect and obedience, he must demonstrate his own strength and skill. He ordered his men to bring weapons, intending to have a real fight with the big man. However, before the fight begins, Ashur throws his short sword to the ground and grabs a clay wine jar to fight instead. The big man attacks with a sharp sword. Ashur, agile and flexible, dodges the sharp blade several times. Seizing a moment and spotting an opening, he knocks the big man to the ground with his elbow. Unwilling to accept defeat and humiliated in full view of everyone, the big man instantly loses his reason and attacks Ashur furiously with his short sword. Enraged by the man's behavior, having intended only to spar, he sees the man is relentless. He uses the shattered pottery jar in his hand as a weapon, using a sharp shard to slit the man's artery. This battle makes all the present slaves look at Ashur with new eyes. Although they still disdain his past sneak attacks, they realize his combat ability far exceeds their own. Crixus, seeing his top fighter die just like that, is angry that Ashur was too heavy-handed. Ashur tells Crixus that the school is heavily in debt, and he has not yet secured an entry ticket to the arena. Currently, many gladiator schools are intensifying their training to get a spot in the Colosseum. The combat power and fighting styles of gladiators in the arena are constantly upgrading and changing. He tells Crixus to keep up with the times and innovate the tactics of the trainees. To let Crixus understand the gladiators cultivated by other schools, Ashur immediately takes him to the arena to observe. That day, the performance is a contest between a hammer wielder and a swordsman. Although the swordsman is agile, he is ultimately smashed to death by the hammer wielder's brute force. Immediately after, the host announces the finale of the day, a battle between a saber and a spear. After a fight, the saber kills the spearman. The noble on the main podium happens to have bet on the saber. Seeing the noble in high spirits, Ashur seizes the opportunity to step forward and ask the noble to give his gladiators a chance to compete. However, although the nobles acknowledge that Ashur helped suppress Spartacus's rebellion and protected their rights and wealth, they despise his betrayal of his brothers and want to refuse his request. Just then, the wife of the Orbit family, seeing Ashur's sincere plea, agrees to give this Syrian a chance to see how capable his gladiators are. After humbling himself, Ashur finally gets an entry ticket to the arena. He immediately tells Crixus to get the strongest warrior under his command ready. Unexpectedly, Crixus tells him that the school's strongest fighter, the big man, was killed by Ashur himself with a pottery shard that morning. This infuriates Ashur. He orders the remaining warriors to compete overnight so he can screen out the strongest fighter to represent him in the arena. To boost morale, Ashur tells the trainees that the winner will enter the arena. The warriors become unusually excited, banging their weapons on the ground, because everyone present knows that the chance to shed their slave status and become a free man is right before them. In the ensuing selection trials, everyone attacks with all their might, wanting to seize the opportunity to change their destiny. After layers of selection, Logus emerges victorious, becoming the representative of Ashur's gladiator school. The next day, Logus arrives at the arena. Looking at the audience around him, he understands that this place will be the starting point of his road to freedom. But the people in the stands hiss at Logus constantly. Because he is a newcomer, the audience doesn't favor him and places their bets on his opponent. To Logus's surprise, his opponents turn out to be 3 dwarves. With a command of the lady of the Orbit family, the match begins. Logus has no time to think and is forced into the fight. Logus usually trains for one-on-one duels. Facing 3 dwarves attacking from front, back, and sides, he finds it difficult to cope. After a few rounds, he sustains multiple injuries. Fortunately, after withstanding multiple attacks from the 3 dwarf brothers, he gradually becomes familiar with their fighting style. After steadying himself, he begins to look for their flaws to counterattack. Soon, Logus seizes an opportunity to knock a dwarf to the ground. Facing his first victory in the arena, the impetuous Logus immediately takes off his helmet to enjoy the audience's cheers. However, due to his lack of combat experience, just as he was gloating, a dwarf behind him suddenly leaps high and stabs a dagger into his body. The remaining 2 dwarf brothers seize the chance to attack the injured Logus. Suffering heavy damage and exhausted, Logus can hardly parry. Under the pincer attack of the dwarf brothers, he falls to his knees in the arena. Before collapsing, Logus looks at Ashur in the stands, realizing that his first time on this great stage is also his last time in this arena filled with blood and slaughter. After the match, the nobles revel in the banquet hall. Ashur, taking advantage of the noble's drunken state, finds the magistrate, hoping for another chance to present his fighters. But the nobles mock and ridicule Ashur with harsh words. Ashur maintains a smile on his face. He understands that rising from slavery, he has experienced too much oppression and humiliation. To turn his fortunes around, he must endure this mockery. After Ashur's repeated pleading, he finally obtains another qualification to enter the arena. But Ashur knows that if he fails again this time, there will be no chance to turn things around, and the warriors trained in his school will never gain a foothold in the arena. So Ashur takes Crixus to a neighboring city to look for slaves with superior combat power. But after picking through the slave market, they find no suitable candidates. Just then, a black female slave tries to escape. Although handcuffed, the agile woman manages to knock down several fully armored guards single-handedly. Just as an officer draws a sharp sword to stab the female slave, Ashur suddenly steps in and wrestles the woman to the ground. After controlling the female slave, Ashur immediately gives the officer a bag of silver coins for ransom and takes her away. Having experienced the baptism of many wars and crawled out from piles of the dead, Ashur sees at a glance that although this black slave is a woman, her skill and explosive power contain immense potential. Thus, Ashur pays a heavy price to redeem her, intending to make her the school's key focus for training. But just as Ashur welcomes the female slave and offers her fine wine, the female slave suddenly smashes the wine cup at Ashur. She then strangles Ashur with a chain, declaring that she does not want to be a slave and only wants to pursue freedom. Ashur immediately tells her,
"If you want to get rid of your slave identity, go to the arena and become a free warrior through slaughter." He explains that both he and Crixus went from slaves to gladiators, fighting for their freedom through countless battles. Hearing Ashur's words, the female slave finally loosens the chain, kneels before Ashur, and finally submits. And the episode ends here. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for second episode.